So my fourth and final video when it comes to undersea type of adventures. In this one, we're going to brainstorm a little bit about what type of campaign settings and what can you run there for a draw for your players. Because we always talk about the overland ones or the desert ones or the Arctic ones or the European ones or the deciduous forest populated cities. We do all those type of campaigns and talk about those, but not a lot of topics become readily to mind when it comes to the undersea adventures. And what is it like? And let's kind of look at it from this way. And they did a great video on what they thought were, it was kind of a hoaxy video that was done on are there merfolk and what if people evolved in the water? What would it be like? So let's look at this for a second. How did these mer races come about? And that's often speculated on. Was it the fact that a creature raised up and became these type of creatures and became sentient? Or was it a race that basically tried to survive and they had an apocalyptic event that sent them into the waters and they had to adapt and survive? Yes and yes. There's a little bit of all kinds of speculation when it comes to it. You have to look at the sea environment. Now, the sea is beautiful to us. When we start out as a land folk and we go out into the ocean, we go out on the edges of the ocean, we get to see some beautiful things. The coral reefs, the fish, the plant life, the little crustaceans, and we think, wow, what an amazing, biosphere that we look at. And we forget what it would be to live in it every single day. So now, imagine you're one of these races, okay? Let's just, for kicks and giggles, pick a merfolk or an aquatic elf, okay? And you're living in this biosphere. This biosphere is vast. 2/3 of your planet is ocean, and most of it has its ups and its downs. The depths of it is dark and mysterious, and there's many dangers because as you go down into these depths, you may not always see. Now, a lot of these aquatic races have developed sort of a dark vision, so they can see in the lower lights or the darker lights. However, imagine being in the inky depths where there is no light at all. And even dark vision begins to fail you as to how far you see. So maybe you see 60 feet in front of you in a medium that does conduct sound down there, but is for the most part pretty silent. And the predators in those depths have learned to be silent. And they are hungry and growing, and they dominate. The ones that are at the darkest depths, imagine being in darkness all the time and never seeing any speck of light or beauty, and what that would be and how it would affect you. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about getting to the ocean cities and depths. We're not talking about the merfolk cities that are about 4,000 or 5,000 feet down that still get some light and have bioluminescence that can give them some sense of light and beauty. We're talking about being in the inky depths of the ceratoids. What are they? The ceratoidae, the deep fishmen. And they have a little bit of light because they can turn on their fisher light. It's kind of a lure. But that's it. It's a realm of darkness. And sometimes these very treasures that treasure hunters seek are lost in these depths. So now imagine immersing yourself in an environment where you hear very little. You're out of your own environment because you know at any point you could be crushed, or your spell could fail and you drown, or your system of air fail and you just lose. There's no way you're getting out. There's no way. Now, unless you got a gate magic or something like that that you can quickly rely on to get you out of there, you are stuck in this environment. And you're having to cope with something so foreign to you that it literally warps your mind. Imagine having to go down with a light rod or something like that that beacons to everything that lives in those depths you're coming. And you're surrounded by darkness except for where that little bit of light touches. What would it be like as a player? What would it be like as a race exploring that area? How dangerous is it? How many near escapes have you had trying to deal with it? And this is where you come into this type of plot. When you wrap this around your players, you, the GM, have to convey this environment to them. It is so foreign to anything that is on the surface that it just goes without saying. But see, we as the GMs don't impart that foreignness, that alienness. It would be like walking into an alien world where nothing makes sense. Nothing. And the sheer life forms down there are beautiful, but as deadly can be. And you are basically having to deal with that. And so you're having to deal with those type of situations as a GM in conveying this. Now, your NPCs that you're running have a different view on life. They're not always as like the races up on the surface that are friendly, trading, trusting, and everything else. They don't. Because a lot happens down there in those worlds of survival. Some folks are very trusting but guarded because they know there are many races out there that do not agree with their goodness and their love of life and beauty. So they are a guarded, very not open to strangers coming into their realms. They understand their own folks, but sometimes they don't because their own folks warp in a way that they don't even begin to understand or accept. There are spies that live in among them, that they have to be on their guard that, you know what, one day these spies may turn them over to an Aboleth or Shahagan or to some other horror of the bottom depths like an Adara or even a Kraken or some other intelligent creature. They have the devilfish that are intelligent octopuses that are spellcasters. What do you do with that? There's Sagothi. That minds are so alien to anything. There are deep ones that follow Dagon, that their minds are twisted, or the Kuatoa, like that worship Blibdulabu, the poop. That's a tongue tire, her name. Or they worship somebody like Haster, or Sogoroth, or someone like that, or Ziphus. And they're so foreign in the type of thinking, or some of the demons or other creatures of the depths and the darknesses, or the primordial ones. So it is so different in the worship and the thinking. You have to watch out for one's school or one's family because you don't know. And if one of them gets taken, you can't always go back and rescue them. You have to mourn them later after the loss because that's just part of living in that environment where there are weresharks, where there are sharks, where there are dinosaurs, where there are deep water crocodiles. It's a world that is very foreign. I'm not saying it's not somewhat like the realms of the above, but it's different. So now when you're designing a plot, you can really take those sort of things into account. So let's say, for instance, there's a Merfolk outpost that is overtaken by some Aboleth. And the Aboleth have taken over the mind of its leader, and the leader has welcomed in other races that normally would not be welcome in. And they have used the other Merfolk to experiment on and do horrible things to. And the Merfolk civilization city-state that put them out there has lost contact. So it's looking to send out either a scouting party of its own or putting together an undersea adventure group that are veterans to this type of cause, or maybe some people that are coming down as treasure hunters that want to trade and work with them and find some things on the sea, but now they're being asked by the very civilization they want to trade with and gain knowledge from. Yes, we'll help you, but only if we find out what happened to that outpost. Maybe it was a cult of some sort of an older god or elder god that took over on the ocean and began taking over a city and corrupting its citizens. Maybe they became a part of the world of dreams, and they walk almost in a dreamscape version of themselves. And they're trying to restore themselves to conscious reality, but because of what's happened and the sheer isolation of where they are, they're unable to. And so some of the remnants or survivors have come out and met with the group and said, help us. We're in this situation and we don't know what to do. Fun idea, huh? Maybe the party is going to salvage a ship that was lost that was important to an upsea empire. And this empire has sent them out on a mission to go find this. And then they have to develop a diplomacy with whatever sea creature nation lives near it. Or maybe cut them into a part of the treasure. Or maybe a druid of one of these undersea races that's not so nice is taken over. And they worship a very dark element. And so, like the Bladulapoop. And they are not going to give up the treasures. They see that as a gift from her. Or maybe it's a cult of Besmara that worships a different aspect of her. And the sea goddess doesn't give up all what's given to her as part of her bounty and due. In fact, she fights for it vengefully. So this is a different aspect of the Besmara everybody knows. And this is a more darker side to it. Or maybe one of the serpent folk empires sunk to the bottom of the ocean has been slowly plotting to rise up again to the surface and retake over everything. And the party has to go down and be a part of that and try to figure out what's going on and how is this going to work and what can we do. So, all these type of things. Sorry, I'm having to do a quick message as I'm doing this with you guys. See all the ideas here that are so different than the surface ones? And there is more to say. Maybe you have to bring peace to two warring factions of two city-states. Maybe they're merfolk, maybe they're gilman, maybe it's Rindilo and someone else fighting this battle, and it's been a battle that has gone on forever. What are you going to do? How are you going to deal with this and bring about peace between the realms before it begins to spill up onto the bottom and start to affect all the people at the surface? Now what do you do? So as you see, there's a lot of different things going on. I'm going to let you guys go. This is just some added ideas for about 13 minutes. I hope it helps and gives you a little bit more thinking when it comes to the undersea. Have a great week.